Nathan Brooks stood frozen at the bottom of his stairs, baseball bat gripped white-knuckled in both hands, listening to water cascade from the upstairs shower. Every light in his house was off. His daughter was at her grandmother's. No one should be here. No one could be here. Yet the rhythmic drum of water against tile echoed through the darkness like a heartbeat that didn't belong. When he kicked open the bathroom door, bat raised, ready to protect the life he'd built alone, he found her, dripping wet, terrified, holding his daughter's shampoo bottle like a shield. She screamed. He shouted. And in that impossible moment, neither could have known that breaking into the wrong house would become the best mistake of their lives. If you want to see how a single misplaced key can rewrite two people's futures, stay with me until the end. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The Friday evening commute out of Jefferson High School always felt like an exhale. Nathan Brooks guided his 10-year-old Honda Civic through the familiar streets of Millbrook, windows cracked just enough to let in the September air without messing his carefully maintained interior. At 34, he'd perfected the art of controlled living. Every minute accounted for, every variable managed, every potential chaos point neutralized before it could disrupt the careful ecosystem he'd built for himself and his daughter. "Mr. Brooks?" The voice crackled through his phone's speaker. "Before you go, I wanted to mention Emma's science project proposal is really exceptional. You must be so proud." Nathan smiled despite the exhaustion pressing against his temples. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. She worked hard on it." "She has your discipline," the elementary school teacher continued. "Most kids her age can't organize their thoughts like that. You're doing something right." After they hung up, Nathan let the compliment settle somewhere in his chest, warm but bittersweet. He was doing something right, yes, but he was also doing it alone, and had been for 6 years now, ever since Emma's mother decided motherhood wasn't the adventure she'd signed up for. The divorce had been swift. The abandonment, slower. A series of missed weekends that eventually became missed birthdays, then silence. He'd rebuilt their life from that rubble. Structure, routine, predictability. These weren't constraints, they were the guardrails that kept them safe. The house on Maple Street was a modest 2-story colonial with blue shutters Nathan repainted every 3 years like clockwork. He pulled into the driveway at exactly 5:47 p.m., 14 minutes later than usual due to a parent-teacher conference that ran long. The deviation bothered him more than it should have. Emma was spending the weekend with his mother across town, a monthly tradition that gave Nathan 2 days to deep clean, meal prep, and reset before the week began again. He grabbed his worn leather messenger bag from the passenger seat and climbed out, already mentally cataloging the evening, leftover chicken and rice for dinner, grade the week's geometry quizzes, fold laundry, maybe finish the mystery novel on his nightstand if he had energy. The front door key turned smoothly in the lock. He stepped into the dark foyer, reaching automatically for the light switch. That's when he heard it. Water running. Upstairs. In the bathroom. Nathan's hand froze halfway to the switch. His heart kicked once, hard, against his ribs. He'd checked every faucet before leaving this morning. He always did. And Emma wasn't home. The house should be silent, dark, exactly as he'd left it 8 hours ago. But water was definitely running, not a drip, not a leak, the steady, unmistakable sound of a shower in full use. For 3 seconds, Nathan stood completely still, every nerve firing contradictory instructions. Call the police. Grab a weapon. Get out of the house. His teacher's brain, trained to manage classroom chaos, tried to supply rational explanations. A pipe burst. The timer on the sprinkler system malfunctioned. Somehow the shower turned on by itself. None of those explanations involved the shadow he now saw moving behind the frosted bathroom window upstairs. Someone was in his house. Nathan moved quietly back to the hall closet, pulse hammering in his ears. His hands found the wooden baseball bat he kept there, a relic from his own high school days, chosen for this exact nightmare scenario he'd never actually believed would happen. The weight of it felt both reassuring and terrifying. He climbed the stairs slowly, carefully, placing each foot on the outer edges where the boards were less likely to creak. His mind raced through possibilities. A burglar wouldn't shower. A squatter? In broad daylight? His neighborhood was safe, boring even. The kind of place where people complained about lawn gnomes, not home invasions. The bathroom door at the end of the hall was closed, light visible in the gap beneath it. Steam curled out into the hallway. The shower was definitely running, and someone was definitely in there. Nathan's grip tightened on the bat. He counted to 3, then kicked the door open hard enough to slam it against the interior wall. "Get out! Get—" His brain short-circuited. A young woman stood in his shower, fully dressed in what had clearly been professional clothes, now soaked through and clinging to her frame. She had shampoo in her hair, hands frozen mid-lather, eyes wide with absolute terror. For a split second, neither of them moved, both processing an impossible situation. Then she screamed. It was piercing, primal, the kind of sound that comes from pure survival instinct. She grabbed the nearest object, Emma's strawberry-scented shampoo bottle, and hurled it at Nathan's head. He ducked. "What are you doing in my house? Your house?" She was backing up against the tile, water streaming over her, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. "This is 247 Maple Street. This is 247 Maple Street. My 247 Maple Street." Nathan realized he was still holding the bat like he was about to swing for the fences and quickly lowered it, though he didn't set it down. "How did you get in here?" "The key." She pointed a shaking hand toward the bathroom counter where a brass key sat next to the soap dish. "The key in the flower pot by the door, the one Sarah told me about." Nathan stared at the key, then at her, then back at the key. "Who the hell is Sarah?" "Sarah Winters? She said I could use her place to clean up before my interview because my apartment's water heater broke, and she lives at 247 Maple and keeps a spare key in the blue flower pot and—" The woman's voice cracked, the words tumbling out faster and faster. Oh God, this isn't her house. This isn't— You're not Sarah." The pieces clicked together in Nathan's head with sickening clarity. Sarah Winters did live on Maple Street, 4 houses down, at 247 Maple Terrace, not Maple Street. "You went to the wrong house," he said slowly. "I went to the wrong house." Her knees seemed to buckle slightly. She reached out to steady herself against the shower wall, then looked down at herself. Professional blazer plastered to her skin, dress pants dripping, one heel missing. "Oh my God, I broke into your house. I'm in your shower. Her face crumpled. "My interview is in 45 minutes. Nathan watched her slide down to sit on the shower floor, water still running over her, and felt the adrenaline that had been screaming through his system start to shift into something more complicated. She wasn't a threat. She was just catastrophically lost. "Turn off the water," he said, setting the bat down outside the door and grabbing a towel from the linen closet. "Here." She looked up at him, mascara streaked and trembling, clearly trying to decide if he was going to call the police or help her. Nathan was trying to decide the same thing. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, reaching up to turn off the shower with a shaking hand. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I would never—" "I know." And strangely, he did know. This wasn't malice. This was just someone whose day had gone spectacularly, impossibly wrong. "What kind of interview?" She blinked at him, water dripping from her hair. "What? You said you have an interview in 45 minutes. What kind?" "Marketing director at Meridian Corp downtown. It's—" Her voice caught. "It's the job. The one I've been working toward for 3 years. I moved to Millbrook specifically because they were hiring, and I can't show up looking like I just committed a misdemeanor." Nathan found himself doing the mental math despite everything. Downtown was 20 minutes in traffic. She needed to dry off, fix her makeup, find different clothes. "What size are you?" he asked. She stared at him. "I'm sorry?" "Clothes. What size? I might have something that fits." "You're helping me?" The disbelief in her voice was almost comical. "You're sitting in my shower having a breakdown after the worst case of wrong house syndrome I've ever seen. What else am I supposed to do?" Nathan surprised himself with the words, even as he said them. He should call the police, file a report, protect himself legally from whatever bizarre lawsuit could emerge from finding a stranger shampooing in his bathroom. But something about the absolute devastation on her face, the way her professional composure had completely shattered, made him think of Emma, of how many times he'd watched his daughter's careful plans fall apart and needed someone to just help instead of judge. "Come on," he said. "Let's find you something dry." But 20 minutes later, Ava Carter, as she'd introduced herself while wrapped in Nathan's largest bath towel, stood in his bedroom wearing a pair of his dress pants rolled at the ankles, a belt cinched tight, and one of his button-down shirts that she'd tucked and tied to approximate professional attire. It shouldn't have worked, but somehow it almost did. "The pants are definitely too long," she said, staring at herself in the full-length mirror with an expression caught between horror and hysterical laughter. "And this shirt is clearly menswear. I look like I raided my boyfriend's closet." "Tell them your luggage was lost," Nathan suggested from where he leaned against the doorframe, keeping a respectful distance. "You flew in for the interview, and the airline sent your bags to Tampa." She looked at him in the mirror's reflection. "That's actually brilliant. I teach high school. I'm very good at creative problem-solving under pressure." Ava turned to face him fully, and Nathan saw her properly for the first time. Not terrified, not soaking wet. Just a woman maybe a few years younger than him with sharp green eyes, and the kind of face that probably smiled often when it wasn't having the worst day imaginable. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "Most people would have called the cops." "Most people probably should have." Nathan checked his watch. "You've got 38 minutes. Do you need a ride downtown?" "I have my car. It's parked 4 houses down outside the actual correct house." She laughed, a brittle sound. "God, Sarah is never going to let me live this down." "Sarah doesn't need to know." Ava met his eyes, something like gratitude and relief and residual panic all mixing together. "You're not going to tell her I accidentally invaded your home? Are you going to do it again?" "Definitely not." "Then we'll call it even." Nathan grabbed her still damp blazer from where it hung over his desk chair. "This won't dry in time, but your shoes should be okay." They walked downstairs together, the surreal normalcy of it almost stranger than the chaos that had preceded it. Ava gathered her things from where she'd dropped them in the foyer. A leather portfolio, car keys, one missing heel that had apparently fallen off when she'd run up to the bathroom in a panic. At the door, she paused. "Nathan Brooks, high school teacher and unexpected hero of the worst Friday of my life." "Ava Carter, marketing professional and accidental home intruder." She laughed, and this time it sounded real. "If I get this job, I'm buying you dinner. A really nice dinner, with dessert. Ma, if you get this job, I'll take you up on that." Nathan opened the door for her, and she stepped out into the early evening light, still wearing his clothes, carrying her soggy blazer. She made it 3 steps down the walkway before turning back. "Nathan?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for not making the worst moment of my day even worse." He nodded, something warm and unexpected settling in his chest. "Good luck, Ava." He watched her run down the street toward where her car was presumably parked, rolled pants flapping, borrowed shirt billowing slightly in the breeze. Then he closed the door, locked it, and stood in his foyer for a long moment, trying to process what had just happened. His quiet, controlled, predictable Friday evening had just been hijacked by a woman who'd accidentally broken into his house, used his shower, borrowed his clothes, and somehow made him want to help instead of hide behind protocol and police reports. Nathan picked up the baseball bat from where he'd left it at the base of the stairs and returned it to the closet. Then he went to the kitchen, microwaved his leftover chicken and rice, and tried to focus on the stack of geometry quizzes waiting on his desk. But his mind kept returning to sharp green eyes and nervous laughter, to the way she'd sat on his shower floor looking absolutely lost, to the strange intimacy of lending someone clothes when you'd known them for less than an hour. It was just a bizarre accident, he told himself. A story he'd tell Emma someday, laugh about over dinner. Nothing more. He almost believed it. Misan. The following Monday, Nathan was in the middle of explaining the Pythagorean theorem to a classroom of largely disinterested sophomores when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. At lunch, he finally checked. 3 messages from an unknown number. "I got the job. I got the job. Dinner's happening. Name the place. I owe you everything." Nathan stared at the messages, a smile pulling at his mouth despite himself. He saved the contact as Ava Wronghouse and typed back, "Congratulations. Really. But you don't owe me dinner." The response came immediately. "Nathan Brooks. I showed up unannounced in your shower, used your shampoo, and borrowed your clothes. I owe you dinner. Friday at 7? There's a good Italian place downtown, Angelo's." He should say no. This woman was a stranger, an accidental criminal, someone whose life had intersected with his purely by geographical mistake. Getting dinner would be weird, wouldn't it? Crossing some kind of boundary from Good Samaritan into something else? But she'd gotten the job, and he'd helped her get it. And there was something appealing about the idea of seeing her again when she wasn't mid-crisis, when they could actually talk like normal humans instead of panicked intruder and bewildered homeowner. Friday at 7, he typed. But I'm paying. Consider it a congratulations gift. Absolutely not. My house, my rules. Pretty sure that's not how gratitude works. Pretty sure I had a baseball bat and you were unarmed. There was a longer pause, then, fine, but I'm getting dessert, non-negotiable. Nathan laughed out loud in the empty teacher's lounge, earning a curious look from Coach Martinez at the coffee maker. Deal, he typed back. He spent the rest of the week telling himself it wasn't a date. Just dinner between two people who'd met under unusual circumstances. A friendly thank you meal. Nothing to overthink. By Friday afternoon, he'd changed shirts 3 times. You look nice, Mr. Brooks, Emma said when he picked her up from school. She was strapped into her booster seat, pigtails slightly askew from recess, clutching a folder full of graded assignments. Are you going somewhere? Just dinner with a friend. What friend? You don't have friends. Nathan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. I have friends. You have work people you talk to about school stuff. That's not the same. Emma kicked her feet against the back of his seat thoughtfully. Is it a girlfriend? It's a new friend who happens to be a girl, a woman. Nathan could feel heat creeping up his neck. And you're staying with Grandma tonight, remember? She's making your favorite lasagna. Is this friend nice? Nathan thought about Ava sitting on his shower floor, devastated and apologetic. About her messages, enthusiastic and genuine. About the fact that she'd insisted on repaying a kindness most people wouldn't have extended. Yeah, he said. She's nice. Emma seemed satisfied with this. Okay, but if she's mean, you should leave. I'll keep that in mind. He dropped Emma at his mother's house, endured 15 minutes of gentle interrogation about this dinner friend that somehow his mother had already intuited was significant, and drove downtown with his heart beating faster than it had any right to. Angelo's was tucked into a brick building on 4th Street, the kind of family-owned place with red checkered tablecloths and photos of the Italian countryside covering every wall. Nathan arrived exactly at 7, punctuality bred from years of rigid scheduling, and found Ava already seated at a corner table. She'd beaten him there, and she was wearing a deep blue dress that bore no resemblance to his oversized button-down, her hair pulled back, makeup immaculate, looking like someone who absolutely belonged in a marketing director's office. You're early, he said, sliding into the chair across from her. You're exactly on time, she countered, which somehow feels more you. Teacher habits. If I'm not 10 minutes early, I'm late. She smiled, and it transformed her entire face. This wasn't the terrified woman from his bathroom or the frantic interviewee racing against time. This was someone comfortable, confident, at ease. So, Ava said, reaching for the breadbasket, tell me about Nathan Brooks when he's not playing hero to wayward strangers. And somehow, impossibly, he did. They talked through appetizers about his daughter, about the challenges and joys of single parenting, about how Emma had inherited his stubborn streak, but mercifully, her mother's charm. Ava listened like she actually cared, asked follow-up questions, laughed at his stories about parent-teacher conferences gone wrong. Over pasta, Ava told him about growing up in Portland, about her obsession with marketing psychology, about how she'd spent 3 years at a startup that imploded spectacularly, leaving her determined to find something more stable, more real. Meridian Corp is the opposite of that chaos, she explained, twirling linguine around her fork. Established, structured, actual HR policies. It's perfect. Sounds like you traded chaos for control, Nathan observed, says the man with a color-coded calendar. You saw my calendar? It was on your desk when I was borrowing your clothes, which, again, I'm so sorry about. Stop apologizing. We've established you're forgiven. Ava set down her fork, studying him with those sharp green eyes. Can I ask you something? Why did you help me? Really? Most people would have freaked out, called 911, definitely not offered their wardrobe. Nathan considered this, rolling his wine glass between his palms. Honestly, I don't know. You were clearly having the worst day. And I guess I know what it's like when everything falls apart and you just need someone to not make it worse. Something shifted in Ava's expression, understanding and recognition. Your ex-wife. It wasn't a question. Nathan nodded anyway. She left when Emma was 4. Just decided motherhood wasn't her thing and walked away. For a long time, I felt like I was drowning, and everyone around me kept trying to fix it with advice and judgment instead of just helping. So you became the person you needed back then. Something like that. Nathan took a sip of wine, surprised by how easy it was to talk to her. What about you? What's your chaos origin story? Ava laughed. Nothing as profound. I just have a talent for choosing the wrong door, apparently, literally and metaphorically. They stayed at Angelo's until the restaurant started setting up for the late dinner crowd, conversation flowing easily from topic to topic. Books, movies, the surreal experience of adult life never quite feeling as adult as promised. When the check came, they had a brief, playful argument about who was paying before Nathan reminded her about the baseball bat, and she conceded with mock indignation. Outside, the September air had cooled to something comfortable. They walked slowly toward where their cars were parked a block away, neither quite ready for the evening to end. This was really nice, Ava said. Like, unexpectedly nice. I thought it would be weird, but it wasn't. I thought the same thing, Nathan admitted. She stopped at a silver Subaru, digging keys from her purse. We should do it again sometime, if you want. No obligation. Nathan surprised himself by not hesitating. I'd like that. Yeah? Yeah. Next Friday? There's a good Thai place near the school. Ava's smile was brilliant in the streetlight. It's a date. I mean, not a date. Unless, is it a date? He'd spent all week telling himself this wasn't a date, that they were just two people sharing a meal, that the strange circumstances of their meeting didn't mean anything beyond coincidence. But standing here, watching her try to play it casual while clearly hoping for a specific answer, Nathan realized he'd been lying to himself. It's a date, he said. Her smile widened. Good. Because I really hoped it was. She kissed him on the cheek, quick, almost shy, then climbed into her car before either of them could overthink it. Nathan watched her drive away, hand still touching the spot where her lips had been, feeling like he'd just stepped off the edge of something and wasn't sure if he was falling or flying. When he got home, the house felt different. Not empty, exactly, just full of possibility it hadn't held before. He texted Ava when he was getting ready for bed. Made it home safely. No unexpected shower guests. Her reply came instantly. Checked twice. Definitely at the right address this time. So glad we've learned from past mistakes. Some mistakes turn out okay. Nathan read that message 3 times before responding. Yeah, they really do. He fell asleep that night thinking about green eyes and wrong doors and the strange, unexpected ways life could shift when you least expected it. His carefully controlled world had just developed a variable he hadn't planned for. And for the first time in 6 years, that didn't terrify him. It felt like possibility. The Thai restaurant turned into coffee the following week, which turned into a Saturday afternoon at the farmer's market, which turned into Nathan realizing he was checking his phone more than he had in years, waiting for her name to light up the screen. You're smiling at your phone again, Emma observed from the back seat one Thursday afternoon. They were driving home from her piano lesson, traffic thick with rush hour commuters. Is it the shower lady? Nathan nearly swerved into the next lane. What did you call her? The shower lady. Grandma told me about her. Emma swung her feet, unconcerned by her father's sudden panic. She said you met a nice woman who got confused about houses, and you helped her and now you're friends. Nathan made a mental note to have a very specific conversation with his mother about information boundaries. Her name is Ava, and yes, we're friends. Are you going to marry her? Emma, we've known each other for 3 weeks. Daddy, you're still smiling. He was. He couldn't help it, because Ava had just sent him a photo of a disastrous marketing presentation with the caption, "Save me from corporate jargon," and somehow that felt more intimate than it should. She's nice, Emma continued, philosophical in that way 8-year-olds could be. Grandma says you haven't smiled like this since before Mommy left. The comment landed somewhere between Nathan's ribs, bittersweet and true. He'd been functional since the divorce, present, a good father. But happy? That had seemed like a luxury he couldn't afford, not when all his energy went toward keeping their small family stable. Would you want to meet her? The question came out before Nathan could overthink it. Ava, if she came over for dinner sometime? Emma considered this seriously. Does she like pizza? I don't know. Oh, you should find out. That's important information. That night, after Emma was asleep, Nathan texted Ava. Random question. How do you feel about pizza? Her response came quickly. Strongly positive. Why? Emma wants to know if you're dinner-worthy. Your daughter is vetting me via pizza preferences? I'm honored and terrified. Welcome to single-parent dating. There was a longer pause before her next message appeared. Is that what we're doing? Dating? Nathan stared at his phone, heart suddenly loud in his ears. They'd been seeing each other regularly for weeks now, but they'd never actually defined it. Everything had felt easy, natural, like they were just two people enjoying each other's company without pressure or expectation. But it was more than that. He knew it was more than that every time her name appeared on his screen, and his whole chest felt lighter. I'd like to be, he typed. If you would. Nathan Brooks, are you officially asking me to be your girlfriend? Because I'm 30 years old and that phrase feels wonderfully ridiculous. Yes, I'm asking. Then I'm saying yes. Obviously. He read her message 3 times, grinning like an idiot in his dark bedroom, feeling like a teenager instead of a 34-year-old single father with a mortgage and student loans. Pizza next Friday? He sent. Fair warning, Emma will have questions. I survived a wrong house shower incident. I can handle an 8-year-old's interrogation. But when Friday came, Nathan found himself more nervous than he'd been in years. He cleaned the house twice, made Emma promise to be on her best behavior, and changed his shirt 4 times before Ava knocked on the door at exactly 6:30. She was holding a bakery box and wearing jeans and a soft gray sweater that made her eyes look impossibly green. I brought dessert, she said. Chocolate chip cookies from that place on 5th Street. Emma approved, I hope. You researched my daughter's dessert preferences? I asked your mother. She's very helpful. But Nathan made another mental note about his mother's involvement in his personal life. Come in. And I'm sorry in advance for whatever happens next. What happened next was Emma appearing at the top of the stairs in her favorite purple dress, clearly having prepared for this moment like a tiny professional. Hi, Emma said, descending slowly, studying Ava with open curiosity. I'm Emma Christine Brooks. I'm 8 3/4. Are you really the lady who showered at our house by accident? Emma! Nathan's face went hot, but Ava just laughed, crouching down to Emma's eye level. I really am. It was super embarrassing. Your dad was very nice about it, though. He's nice about most things, except vegetables. He makes me eat a lot of vegetables. Vegetables are important, Ava said seriously. That's what he says. Emma moved closer, inspecting Ava like she was a particularly interesting science project. Do you like pizza? I love pizza. What's your favorite kind? Pepperoni and mushroom. Emma's eyes lit up. That's my favorite. Daddy only likes plain cheese because he's boring. I'm standing right here, Nathan protested, but he was smiling, watching his daughter and girlfriend that was still surreal, bond over their shared disdain for his pedestrian pizza choices. Dinner was easier than Nathan had imagined. Ava asked Emma about school, about piano lessons, about her favorite books, and actually listened to the answers. She didn't talk down or oversimplify, just engaged like Emma was a person worth knowing. Which she was, obviously, but Nathan had watched enough of his past dates treat his daughter like an obstacle to be tolerated rather than part of the package. So you work in marketing, Emma said around a mouthful of pepperoni. What does that mean? It means I help companies figure out how to tell people about their products, Ava explained. Like, if someone makes a really cool new bike, I help them explain why kids should want that bike instead of a different bike. Do you make the commercials? Sometimes I help create them, yes. Emma's face transformed with excitement. That's so cool. I want to make movies when I grow up. Daddy says I have to go to college first, but I think I should just start making movies now. College teaches you a lot of useful things, Ava said diplomatically. But there's nothing stopping you from making movies now, too. Do you have a camera? My iPad. That's all you need to start. Nathan watched them talk, something warm and unexpected settling in his chest. This was his life, his daughter, his home, his carefully controlled world. And somehow Ava fit into it like she'd always been there, like the missing piece he hadn't known was missing. After dinner, Emma insisted on showing Ava her room, which meant a full tour of every stuffed animal's backstory and a dramatic reading of her latest school essay. Nathan cleaned up the kitchen, listening to their voices drift down from upstairs. Emma's high and animated, Ava's warm and engaged. When they finally came back down, Emma was holding Ava's hand. Ava says she can teach me about camera angles, Emma announced, and editing. Can she come back next Friday too? That's up to Ava, Nathan said, catching Ava's eye over his daughter's head. I'd love to, Ava said simply. After Emma's bedtime, they sat on the porch with the cookies Ava had brought, the September night comfortable and quiet around them. She's wonderful, Ava said, breaking off a piece of cookie. You've done an amazing job. I've done a terrified job, Nathan corrected. Every day I'm convinced I'm screwing something up. That's called being a parent, I think. You're good with her. Natural. Ava was quiet for a moment, watching moths circle the porch light. I always wanted kids. It just never happened. Career got in the way, then the right person never showed up, and suddenly I'm 30 and single and starting over in a new city. Is this weird? Nathan asked. Me having Emma? Some people can't handle the instant family thing. Nathan. Ava turned to look at him directly. Emma is part of you. How could that be weird? If anything, watching you with her makes me like you more. You're patient and kind, and you actually pay attention. Do you know how rare that is? He didn't know what to say to that, so he kissed her instead, soft and careful, tasting chocolate and possibility. When they broke apart, Ava was smiling. So, same time next Friday? It's a date. Will Emma be here? Probably. Is that okay? More than okay. Ava stood, gathering her things. I like your life, Nathan Brooks. It's nice here. After she left, Nathan found Emma sitting at the top of the stairs in her pajamas. You're supposed to be asleep, he said, not unkindly. I like her, Emma declared. She's not like the other ones. What other ones? The ladies you went to dinner with last year. They were boring and they didn't really talk to me. Nathan had tried dating briefly the previous year, a handful of unsuccessful attempts that all ended when he realized he was forcing something that wasn't there. Ava's different, he agreed. Are you going to marry her? Emma, we just started dating. Marriage is way down the road. But maybe. Nathan thought about Ava's laugh, about how she'd sat on his shower floor completely lost, and somehow that had led to this, to his daughter holding her hand and his heart feeling fuller than it had in years. Maybe, he admitted, someday, if we're lucky. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer. She kissed his cheek and padded off to bed, leaving Nathan alone with his thoughts and the lingering taste of chocolate chip cookies. The weeks blurred into months, fall sliding toward winter. Ava became a fixture in their lives. Friday dinners turned into Saturday morning pancakes, which turned into homework help and movie nights, and Ava showing up to Emma's school recital with flowers. Nathan's rigid routines bent to accommodate her without breaking, and somehow his life felt fuller for it, richer. I love you, he said one night in late November. They were on his couch, Emma asleep upstairs, some movie neither of them was watching playing on the TV. The words came out simple and true, not planned or rehearsed. Ava looked at him, eyes wide in the flickering light. Say that again. I love you. I've been trying not to say it because it felt too soon, but I can't keep pretending I don't. Nathan. She shifted closer, taking his face in her hands. I've loved you since you handed me a towel and a dry shirt instead of calling the police. Maybe before that. Maybe from the second I looked up and saw you standing there with that baseball bat looking absolutely terrified. I was terrified. Me too. Best terror of my life. They kissed, deep and slow, and Nathan felt something settle into place, some fundamental rightness he'd been missing without knowing it. But life, as Nathan had learned, had a way of complicating even the best things. December brought end-of-semester chaos at school and a major campaign deadline for Ava at work. Their Friday dinners started getting canceled, rescheduled, pushed back. Ava would text apologetically at 5 p.m. saying she had to stay late, that the client was demanding revisions, that she was sorry, but could they rain check? Nathan understood. Of course he understood. But understanding didn't stop Emma from being disappointed when Ava missed her holiday concert, or Nathan from eating alone after cooking dinner for 3. She's busy, he explained to Emma when she asked why Ava hadn't come over in 2 weeks. Work is really demanding right now. She always says she'll come and then she doesn't, Emma said, and there was something in her voice that made Nathan's chest tight. Like Mommy did. Ava is not like your mother, Nathan said firmly. She wants to be here. Work is just complicated right now. But privately he was starting to wonder. Not if Ava loved him. He believed that absolutely. But if love was enough when their lives pulled in different directions, when her career demanded everything and his life was built around routines and stability that didn't bend easily. They had their first real fight 3 days before Christmas. Ava had promised to come to his mother's holiday dinner, had confirmed twice, and then texted at 4 p.m. to say the client meeting had run long and she wouldn't make it. Nathan called her instead of texting back. "I'm so sorry," Ava said immediately, and he could hear the exhaustion in her voice. "I know I promised, but they're threatening to pull the whole account if we don't present new concepts by Friday, and you've canceled on us 6 times this month," Nathan interrupted, keeping his voice low because Emma was in the next room. 6 times, Ava. I know, and I hate it, but this is my job. This is what I worked for, what I moved here for. And what about us? What about Emma waiting by the door for you? What about me cooking dinner that goes in the trash?" There was silence on the other end of the line. When Ava spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "That's not fair. You know how important this job is to me. You know I'm trying to build something here. I'm not asking you to quit your job. I'm asking you to show up when you say you will. I can't control when clients need revisions or when meetings run long. This is the reality of my career, Nathan. I thought you understood that." "I do understand, but Emma doesn't. She just knows the person she cares about keeps promising to be there, and then isn't. Don't bring Emma into this like I'm her mother walking out. That's not what's happening here. Isn't it?" The words came out sharper than he meant, born from weeks of swallowed disappointment. Because from where I'm standing, it feels pretty familiar. "That's not fair," Ava's voice rose. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm working. There's a difference." "Is there? Because the result looks the same from here." The silence that followed was thick and horrible. "I can't do this right now," Ava said finally, voice tight. "I have to get back to this presentation. We'll talk later." She hung up before he could respond. Nathan stood in his kitchen, phone still pressed to his ear, feeling like he'd just stepped on a landmine in the middle of his own life. He'd been so careful, so controlled, built such a safe space for Emma. And then Ava had walked into it and made him believe that maybe he could have more than just safety. Maybe he could have joy and partnership and love. But love required presence, and presence was the one thing Ava couldn't seem to manage. Emma appeared in the doorway, still in her holiday dress. "Is Ava coming?" Nathan looked at his daughter's hopeful face and felt something crack in his chest. "Not tonight, sweetheart. She has to work." "Oh." Emma's disappointment was palpable. "Okay." At his mother's house, Nathan went through the motions of dinner, of conversation, of pretending everything was fine while his phone stayed silent in his pocket. Emma was quiet too, picking at her food, and his mother kept giving him concerned looks he couldn't bring himself to acknowledge. When they got home, Emma went straight to her room without her usual bedtime routine. Nathan knocked softly on her door. "Em, can I come in?" She was sitting on her bed, still in her dress, holding the stuffed elephant Ava had given her for her birthday. "Is Ava going to leave like Mommy did?" The question hit Nathan like a physical blow. "No, honey. Ava's just really busy with work right now. But she keeps saying she'll come and then she doesn't. That's what Mommy did. She said she'd come to my birthday and my recital and my first day of kindergarten, and then she just stopped saying it." Nathan sat down next to his daughter, pulling her close. "Ava is not your mother. She wants to be here. Sometimes grown-ups have jobs that make it hard to be where they want to be. Do you wish she had a different job? I wish... Oh, Nathan stopped, choosing his words carefully. I wish it was easier for all of us. Emma was quiet for a long moment, then, I don't want you to be sad, Daddy. I'm not sad, just figuring things out. But he was sad and confused and starting to wonder if he'd made a mistake letting someone into their carefully constructed life, disrupting the balance he'd worked so hard to maintain. Ava didn't call that night, or the next day. Nathan didn't call her either, pride and hurt keeping his phone in his pocket. On Christmas Eve, she finally texted, "Can we talk?" They met at a coffee shop halfway between his house and her apartment, neutral territory that felt more like a battlefield. Ava looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun. "I'm sorry," she said immediately when he sat down, for missing dinner, for all the canceled plans, for everything. "I'm sorry too. For comparing you to Emma's mother, that wasn't fair." It wasn't completely wrong, though. Ava wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like she needed the warmth. "I have been unreliable. Not because I don't care, but because I'm drowning at work and I don't know how to fix it. Talk to me. Tell me what's actually going on." She took a shaky breath. "The account I'm managing, it's huge, like career-defining huge. If I land it, I'm set. Promotion, security, everything I've been working toward. But the client is demanding and the deadlines are impossible and I feel like I'm failing at everything. At work, at this, at being the person you and Emma deserve." "You're not failing at this," Nathan said quietly. "You're just stretched too thin." "I don't know how to do both," Ava admitted, and there were tears in her eyes now. "I don't know how to be the partner you need and the professional I need to be. And I'm terrified that I'm going to lose one or both, and I don't know which would hurt more." Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. "What do you want? Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want?" "I want you and Emma and Friday night dinners and movie nights and being part of your life." She squeezed his hand. "But I also want to prove I can do this job, that I didn't uproot my entire life for nothing. I want to not be scared every month that I can't make rent because I took a chance on something better." Are those things mutually exclusive? I don't know, maybe. Right now they feel like it. Nathan sat back, processing. This was the thing about real relationships he was learning. They required more than just love. They required logistics and compromise and figuring out how two complete lives could coexist without one consuming the other. "What if we set actual boundaries?" he suggested. "Not just hoping we'll find time, but scheduling it. One night a week that's non-negotiable unless there's an actual emergency. And we're honest about what we can and can't handle. You'd be okay with just one night a week? I'd rather have one reliable night than 7 canceled plans." Ava's laugh was wet, broken. "That's very practical of you. I'm a teacher. Practical is my brand. God, I've missed you." She wiped at her eyes. "Even when I was angry, I just missed you." "I missed you too." They spent the next hour actually talking, about expectations, about fears, about what a sustainable relationship looked like when both people had lives that didn't pause for romance. It wasn't romantic, it was necessary. "Wednesdays," Ava said finally. "That's my lightest day. Can Wednesdays be ours? Emma has piano on Wednesdays until 6. Perfect. I'll pick up dinner and meet you at 7, every Wednesday, no matter what." "No matter what," Nathan agreed. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And maybe that mattered more. They spent Christmas together, Nathan, Emma, and Ava, making cookies and watching holiday movies and pretending the last week hadn't happened. Emma was cautiously happy to have Ava back, though Nathan noticed she didn't fully relax until Ava showed up the following Wednesday exactly as promised, with Thai food and a smile. And the Wednesday after that, and the one after that. January brought a different kind of challenge. Ava's big client fell through. The account she'd been killing herself for dissolved after the company decided to go with an internal team instead. She showed up at Nathan's door on a Thursday night, makeup streaked, completely devastated. "They went with someone else," she said when he opened the door. "After everything, after all those late nights and missed dinners, and I sacrificed for that account and they just went with someone else." Nathan pulled her inside into his arms, letting her cry against his shoulder while Emma watched from the stairs with wide, concerned eyes. "I'm sorry," Ava kept saying. "I'm so sorry for showing up like this. I just didn't know where else to go." "Here is exactly where you should go," Nathan said firmly. "Always." He set her up on the couch with tea, while Emma, unprompted, brought down her favorite blanket and her stuffed elephant. "When I'm sad, these help," Emma said seriously, tucking both around Ava. "And Daddy makes really good grilled cheese." Ava laughed through her tears. "Thank you, Emma. You're very wise." "I know." Later, after Emma was in bed and Ava had cried herself out, they sat together in the quiet. "I feel like such a failure," Ava whispered. "I gave up so much for that account." "You're not a failure. The client made a business decision. That's not a reflection of your worth." "It feels like it is." Nathan turned to face her fully. "You are brilliant and talented, and the fact that one client couldn't see that is their loss. You will find other accounts, better ones. This isn't the end." "How are you so sure?" "Because I've watched you work. I've seen your presentations, heard you talk about campaigns. You're good at this, Ava. One setback doesn't change that." She leaned into him, exhausted and raw. "I'm glad I have you. Even when I'm a mess. Maybe especially when I'm a mess. You've seen me at my worst too. That's what this is." "When have I seen you at your worst?" Nathan smiled into her hair. "You literally met me threatening you with a baseball bat while you were having a breakdown in my shower. That's pretty definitively worst." That got a real laugh out of her. "Okay, fair point. We've literally started from the bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. And somehow, impossibly, that's what happened." February brought a new client for Ava, smaller but stable, with reasonable deadlines and clear expectations. March brought Emma's 9th birthday, which Ava helped plan with an enthusiasm that made Emma glow. April brought the kind of routine they'd been searching for. Not perfect, but sustainable. Real. Nathan watched his life expand to include someone else without losing its shape. Watched Emma bond with Ava in a way that felt natural rather than forced. Watched himself fall more in love with every Wednesday dinner and weekend morning and random text throughout the day. "I've been thinking," Ava said one night in late April. They were washing dishes after dinner, Emma doing homework at the kitchen table, everything domestic and ordinary and perfect. "My lease is up in June." "Yeah?" Nathan handed her a plate to dry. "What would you think about me not renewing it?" Nathan's hand stilled in the soapy water. "What would you do instead?" "I don't know. Maybe find a place closer to here, or..." She set down the plate, looking at him directly. "Maybe not find a separate place at all." His heart kicked hard against his ribs. "Ava Carter, are you asking to move in?" "I'm floating the idea. If it's too soon, I completely understand. But we basically lived together on Wednesdays and weekends anyway, and it seems silly to keep paying for an apartment I barely use when I could be here. With you. With Emma. If that's something you'd want." Nathan looked at his daughter, bent over her math homework, completely absorbed. Then back at Ava, nervous and hopeful and real. "I'd want that," he said quietly. "Emma would too, I think. But we'd need to ask her. She gets a vote." "Emma," Ava called. "Can we ask you something?" Emma looked up, pencil still in hand. "What?" "How would you feel if I moved in here, like lived here all the time instead of just some days?" Emma's face transformed with a joy so pure it made Nathan's chest ache. "Really? You'd live here? If your dad and you are okay with it?" "Yes." "Yes, yes, yes, yes!" Emma jumped up, running to hug Ava hard enough to nearly knock her over. "You can have the guest room and we can have breakfast every day and you can help me with my movie projects all the time and..." "Breathe, Em," Nathan laughed. But he was smiling too, wider than he had in years, watching his daughter and his girlfriend, no, his partner now, his family, hold each other like they'd both found something they'd been missing. That night, after Emma finally went to sleep, still buzzing with excitement, Nathan and Ava sat on the porch in the April warmth. "This is really happening," Ava said, wonder in her voice. "I'm moving in. We're doing this." "Having second thoughts?" "No, just marveling. 6 months ago, I accidentally broke into your house. Now I'm moving into it on purpose. Best breaking and entering I ever experienced." "You know what's crazy?" Ava leaned her head on his shoulder. "I was so convinced that wrong turn ruined everything. I had this whole plan, new city, new job, fresh start. Everything was supposed to go perfectly. And then I used the wrong key and ended up in your shower, and I thought it was the worst thing that could happen. And now? Now I think maybe it was the best thing. Maybe I needed to get completely lost to find exactly where I was supposed to be. Nathan kissed the top of her head, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, the same strawberry scent from Emma's bottle, the one she'd been using that first night. I spent 6 years building the safest, most controlled life I could, and then you showed up soaking wet and terrified and completely destroyed all that control. Sorry? Don't be. Turns out control is overrated. This is better. They sat together as the night deepened around them, planning and dreaming and figuring out the logistics of combining 2 lives into one home. It wouldn't be perfect. There would be arguments about closet space and whose turn it was to do dishes and how to balance work and family. But they'd figure it out together, one Wednesday at a time, one accidentally perfect mistake building on another. Because sometimes the wrong door leads exactly where you need to go. Sometimes getting lost is how you find home. And sometimes the person you meet in your darkest, most unexpected moment becomes the person who lights up everything that follows. Nathan Brooks had spent years protecting his heart, building walls, maintaining control. But Ava Carter had walked through the wrong door and knocked down every defense he'd constructed, not with force, but with persistence and kindness and a willingness to be just as lost as he was. And now she was moving in, making it permanent, choosing their accidentally built family over the perfect plan she'd had before everything went wonderfully, impossibly wrong. He couldn't wait. Moving day arrived with the kind of chaotic energy that made Nathan's carefully organized mind want to shut down completely. Boxes filled every available surface of his living room, Ava's entire apartment condensed into cardboard and packing tape. Emma darted between the stacks like she was navigating an obstacle course, periodically shouting discoveries. Ava has a disco ball, she announced, holding up a small mirrored sphere. Can we hang this in my room? That's for my office, Ava said, rescuing the decoration from Emma's enthusiastic grip. But we can get you one if you want. Really? Really? Nathan watched this exchange from where he was attempting to organize boxes by room, a system that was rapidly falling apart as Emma redistributed items based on her own mysterious logic. His mother had offered to help, but he'd politely declined, knowing she'd spend the entire time making pointed comments about how fast they were moving and whether he'd really thought this through. He had thought it through. Extensively. Maybe too extensively, lying awake at night cataloging every potential problem, every way this could go wrong. What if they drove each other crazy? What if the reality of sharing space destroyed what they'd built? What if Emma struggled with the change more than she was letting on? But then he'd look at Ava, currently buried in a box labeled kitchen stuff, and pulling out mismatched mugs, and remember that worrying about the future was just another way of trying to control the uncontrollable. They'd figure it out, together. Where do you want the coffee maker? Ava asked, holding up a sleek silver machine that looked significantly more sophisticated than Nathan's basic drip brewer. Next to mine? Babe, yours is from 2010 and sounds like it's dying every morning. I think we can retire it with honor. That coffee maker has served me faithfully for 14 years. And now it can rest. We'll give it a proper burial in the garage. Emma giggled. You guys are weird. You're just figuring this out now? Nathan asked, ruffling his daughter's hair. By evening, the house looked like a tornado had touched down specifically in their living room. Boxes were half unpacked, furniture rearranged, then rearranged again. Emma's energy finally depleted enough that she'd fallen asleep on the couch, surrounded by packing paper. Nathan and Ava collapsed on the floor beside her, backs against the sofa, surveying the chaos. This is really happening, Ava said quietly. I live here now? Having regrets? Only that I didn't label these boxes better. I have no idea where my toothbrush is. Under the bathroom sink. I unpacked that box first. She turned to look at him, something soft in her expression. You unpacked my toiletries? I figured you'd want to shower tonight without having to excavate. Nathan Brooks, you romantic. I try. She kissed him, slow and sweet, tasting like the pizza they'd ordered for dinner and the future they were building one chaotic moving day at a time. The first week was an adjustment. Nathan discovered that Ava was not, in fact, naturally organized, and had a tendency to leave coffee mugs in random locations throughout the house. Ava discovered that Nathan had very specific opinions about how towels should be folded and couldn't function if the morning routine was disrupted. "You're refolding my towels," Ava said one morning, watching him from the bathroom doorway. "They have to be thirds, not halves. Otherwise, they don't stack properly." "They're towels, Nathan. They dry you off. That's their only job." "Organization is important. Control is important, you mean?" It wasn't quite an argument, but it had edges. Nathan set down the towel, recognizing the familiar terrain of his need for structure bumping against someone else's way of existing. "You're right," he admitted. "I'm being ridiculous." "You're being you, which is fine. But maybe we can compromise. You can fold them however you want in the hall closet, and I'll fold mine however I want in our bathroom." Our bathroom. The phrase still gave him a small thrill. "Deal," he said. But bigger conflicts were coming, brewing beneath the surface of domestic adjustment. In July, Ava's workload exploded again. A major client expansion meant longer hours, more pressure, the kind of demands that made their Wednesday night traditions start to slip. "I know I said 7, Ava said over the phone one Wednesday evening, and Nathan could hear the exhaustion and apology in her voice. "But this presentation needs to be perfect, and I'm not even halfway through the revisions, and—" "It's okay," Nathan interrupted, looking at the dinner he'd prepared, the table set for 3. "We'll save you a plate." "I'm really sorry. I know you are." But when he hung up, Emma was standing in the kitchen doorway, and the disappointment on her face made something in Nathan's chest pull tight. "She's not coming," Emma said. It wasn't a question. "Work emergency." "There's always a work emergency." "Em, that's not fair. Ava's job is demanding." "So is being here." Emma's voice was quiet, but the hurt underneath was loud. "She promised Wednesdays were ours." Nathan didn't have a good answer for that, because Emma was right. They'd made Wednesday sacred specifically to avoid this exact scenario. When Ava finally came home at 11, Nathan was still awake, grading papers in bed. "Hey," she said softly, sitting on the edge of the mattress. "I'm sorry about tonight." "Emma's pretty upset." "I know. I'll talk to her tomorrow. Explain." "Ava." Nathan set down his pen. "We made Wednesday non-negotiable. That was the boundary we set." "I know, but this client is threatening to pull out if we don't deliver exactly what they want, and I can't lose another account. I can't." Her voice cracked slightly. "You know what happened last time. I can't go through that again." "I'm not asking you to lose the account. I'm asking you to keep the promises you make to my daughter." "Our daughter," Ava said sharply. "She's our daughter now, isn't she? That's what this is supposed to be?" The correction landed like a punch. Because yes, that's what Nathan wanted, what he'd hoped would happen as they built this life together. But it also meant Ava had equal stakes, equal say, equal right to be hurt when he made it sound like Emma was his alone. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. Our daughter. But she's still hurt, and I don't know how to fix that." Ava was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. "I don't know how to be enough for everyone. I'm trying so hard to make this work, to be present, to build my career without sacrificing us. But something always gives, and it's usually the thing I care about most." "We can't keep doing this," Nathan said, and he hated how final it sounded. "The cancellations, the broken promises, it's not sustainable." "What are you saying?" "I don't know. I just know that Emma's starting to build walls again, the same ones she had after her mother left. And I can't watch her go through that twice." Ava's face went pale. "I'm not leaving." "I know you're not, but you're not fully here either." The words hung between them, sharp and true and terrible. Ava stood abruptly, grabbing her pillow from the bed. "I'll sleep in the office," she said, voice tight. "I can't do this conversation right now." She left before Nathan could respond, and he sat alone in their bedroom, surrounded by her things, wondering how they'd gone from moving day joy to sleeping in separate rooms in less than 2 months. They didn't talk about it the next morning. Nathan made breakfast, Emma ate in silence, and Ava left early for work without meeting either of their eyes. It felt like free-falling, like watching something precious slip through his fingers and not knowing how to hold on tighter without breaking it completely. At school, Nathan went through the motions of teaching, his mind elsewhere. During lunch, his colleague Marcus dropped into the seat across from him. You look like hell, Marcus observed, unwrapping a sandwich. Thanks. That's helpful. That's trouble in paradise? Nathan considered deflecting, then decided he needed perspective from someone who wasn't emotionally invested. How do you and James do it? The whole two-career thing with kids. Marcus had been married for 15 years, had 3 daughters, and somehow managed to make it look effortless. We don't, Marcus said bluntly. Make it work perfectly, I mean. We argue about schedules constantly. Someone's always disappointed. But we show up for the non-negotiables and we're honest when we can't. What are the non-negotiables? That's the thing, man. Every family's different. For us, it's Sunday dinners and the kids' games. James travels for work. I've got evening classes sometimes. We can't be everywhere, but we can be somewhere that matters. Nathan thought about Wednesday nights, about how they'd set that boundary, and then let it erode the first time work got hard. What if the non-negotiables keep getting negotiated anyway? He asked. Then you decide if you're okay with that, or you have a harder conversation about what you're actually building together. That evening, Nathan picked Emma up from her friend's house and found her quieter than usual. You okay, kiddo? He asked as they drove home. Is Ava going to move out? The question made Nathan's hands tighten on the steering wheel. What? No, why would you think that? You guys are fighting, and when you and Mommy fought, she left. Nathan pulled over, unable to have this conversation while driving. He turned to face Emma fully. Listen to me. Ava is not your mother. When people who love each other live together, sometimes they disagree. Sometimes they fight. That doesn't mean anyone's leaving. But what if she does? She won't. How do you know? It was a fair question. How did he know? Because Ava had said she loved them? His ex-wife had said that too, right up until she didn't. Because Ava chose us, Nathan said slowly, working through it himself as much as explaining to Emma. She didn't have to move in. She didn't have to deal with Wednesday dinners and your movie projects and my weird thing about towels. She chose this family. And yeah, we're going through a rough patch right now, but that doesn't erase the choice. What if she unchooses? Nathan pulled Emma into a hug, feeling her small body tense with worry she was too young to carry. Then we'll deal with it together, you and me, like we always have. But I don't think that's going to happen. Promise? He wanted to. Every instinct screamed to give her the certainty she needed, but he'd learned the hard way that some promises couldn't be kept. I promise that I will do everything I can to work this out, and that no matter what happens, you and I are solid, always. It wasn't the reassurance she wanted, but it was the truth, and Emma seemed to understand that, nodding against his shoulder. When they got home, Ava's car was already in the driveway. Nathan found her in the kitchen, making dinner, and the domesticity of it felt both comforting and fragile. Hey, she said when they walked in, I'm making spaghetti. Emma, can you help me with the salad? Emma hesitated, looking between her father and Ava, then slowly joined Ava at the counter. Nathan watched them work together, the easy rhythm they'd developed over months of Wednesday dinners, and felt his resolve strengthen. After Emma went to bed, Nathan found Ava on the back porch, wineglass in hand, staring at the darkening sky. We need to talk, he said, settling into the chair beside her. I know. She didn't look at him. I've been thinking about it all day. About us, about what I'm doing, about whether I can actually be what you both need. Ava, let me finish. She took a shaky breath. I love you, both of you, more than I've loved anything in my life. But I'm terrified I'm not built for this, that I'm too selfish, too focused on my career, too used to putting work first. You're not selfish for having ambition, but I am selfish for promising to be somewhere and then choosing work instead, for making Emma wait by the door, for making you feel like you can't count on me. Nathan reached over, taking her hand. I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest. If Wednesday nights don't work anymore, we can find something else. But we have to actually commit to it, not just hope it happens. What if I can't commit to anything? What if my job will always demand too much and I'll always be choosing between my career and my family? Then you need to decide what you're willing to sacrifice, because right now you're trying to have everything and it's tearing you apart. Ava finally looked at him, tears tracking down her face in the dim porch light. What if I choose wrong? What do you want, really want? I want both. I want the career I've worked for and the family I've found. I want to prove I can be successful and be present. I want... Her voice broke. I want to not feel like I'm failing at everything all the time. Nathan moved to sit on the ground in front of her, taking both her hands. You're not failing. You're just trying to do everything alone. Let me help. Let us actually be partners instead of me watching you struggle. How? Talk to your boss about boundaries. Real ones. Tell them Wednesday nights are off limits unless it's genuinely urgent. And if they can't respect that, then maybe this job isn't the right fit. That's easy to say when you have tenure and benefits, and I know it's scary. I know you're worried about money and stability and proving yourself. But Ava, you're killing yourself trying to meet impossible standards. Something has to give. She was quiet for a long time, processing. Then, what if they say no? What if setting boundaries means losing the job? Then we figure it out together. We have 2 incomes now. You don't have to carry everything alone anymore. I've always carried everything alone. I don't know how to not do that. Nathan understood that. He'd spent 6 years being the sole provider, the only parent, the one who couldn't afford to fail. Learning to share that responsibility had been terrifying. Start small, he suggested. Talk to your boss tomorrow. Set one boundary. See what happens. Ava nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that. And no matter what, we're in this together. Good days, bad days, catastrophic work meetings, and accidentally breaking into houses. All of it. That got a wet laugh out of her. I really should stop using that shower incident as a reference point. Never. It's our origin story. She leaned forward, kissing him softly. I'm sorry for disappearing into work, for breaking promises, for making you feel like you can't count on me. I'm sorry for making you feel like you have to be perfect, for not supporting your career better. We're kind of a mess, aren't we? The best kind of mess. They sat together on the porch until the mosquitoes drove them inside, holding hands, planning what came next. It wasn't fixed. One conversation couldn't undo months of conflict, but it was a start. The next day, Ava had a meeting with her boss. She came home early, for the first time in weeks, and found Nathan and Emma making tacos for dinner. How'd it go? Nathan asked, reading the tension in her shoulders. I set boundaries, Ava said, setting down her bag. Wednesday nights are off limits except for genuine emergencies. Same with Emma's school events and family dinners. And he wasn't happy about it. Said I need to be more flexible if I want to advance. But I told him I'm not willing to sacrifice my family for my career anymore. Emma looked up from where she was grating cheese. Really? Really? Ava crossed to the counter, pulling Emma into a hug. I'm sorry I kept breaking promises. I'm going to do better. What if your boss fires you, what? Emma asked, practical as always. Then I'll find a different job. One that doesn't make me choose between work and the people I love. Nathan watched this exchange, something in his chest expanding. This was vulnerability. This was trust. This was Ava choosing them even when it was hard, even when it meant risking the security she'd been chasing. But the test came sooner than any of them expected. 2 weeks later, Ava's boss called her into his office and offered her a promotion. Marketing director for the entire West Coast division. Massive pay increase, company car, all the professional validation she'd been working toward. The catch? It was based in Seattle. She'd need to relocate within 3 months. She came home that night looking shell-shocked, the offer letter clutched in her hand like evidence of something impossible. Seattle, she said when Nathan opened the door. They want me to move to Seattle. Emma, doing homework at the kitchen table, looked up sharply. You're leaving? No, I don't know. Ava sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. This is everything I wanted. Director position, real money, finally proving I made the right choice leaving Portland. But it's in Seattle, Nathan said carefully, sitting beside her. But it's in Seattle, she repeated. Which means leaving you, leaving Emma, leaving this life we've built. You should take it. The words came out before Nathan could stop them, born from years of putting everyone else's needs first, of being the supportive partner even when it cost him everything. Ava stared at him. What? It's your dream job. You can't turn that down because of us. Because of us? Nathan, you are us. You and Emma are my family. I can't just abandon that for a promotion. It's not abandoning. It's pursuing your career. We could do long distance or what? You and Emma move to Seattle? Uproot your entire life, take her away from her school and her friends and your job? People do it all the time. I don't want to be people, Ava's voice rose. I want to be here, with you, building something real, not choosing between my career and my family like they're mutually exclusive. Emma had gone very still at the table, watching them with wide eyes. Can we talk about this privately? Nathan asked, nodding toward Emma. They moved to the bedroom, closing the door. Immediately, Ava started pacing. This is exactly what I was afraid of, she said. Having to choose, work or family, ambition or love. Why can't I have both? Maybe you can. Maybe there's a way to make Seattle work. How? You have tenure here. Emma has her whole life here. I can't ask you to give that up. You're not asking. I'm offering. Ava stopped pacing, looking at him directly. Would you really move? Honestly? Nathan thought about it. About leaving the school where he'd taught for 12 years, the community they'd built, his mother who lived 20 minutes away and helped with Emma constantly. About starting over in a new city, being the trailing spouse, rebuilding everything from scratch. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe? If it was the right choice for all of us? That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Because I don't have a good answer. This is huge, Ava. This affects everyone. We can't just decide this in one night. I have to give them an answer by Friday. That's 4 days. I know. Trust me. I know. She sat on the bed, head in her hands. I never should have let myself get this attached. I should have kept my options open, stayed focused on my career. Don't say that. Nathan sat beside her, urgent. Don't make loving us sound like a mistake. It's not a mistake, but it's making this impossible. They sat in heavy silence, the weight of the decision pressing down on them from all sides. What do you actually want? Nathan asked finally. Not what you think you should want. What does your gut say? Ava was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was small. I want to stay here with you and Emma. I want Wednesday dinners and movie nights and helping with homework. I want the life we're building, even if it means turning down the promotion. But I'm terrified I'll resent it. That 5 years from now, I'll look back and wonder what would have happened if I'd taken the chance. If I'd chosen my career instead of playing house. The phrase playing house stung, but Nathan understood what she meant. The fear that domestic happiness was somehow less valid than professional achievement, that choosing family was giving up on ambition. This isn't playing house, he said firmly. This is building a real life, with real commitments and real love. That's not less valuable than a job title. I know that intellectually, but emotionally I feel like I'm supposed to want the promotion more. Like choosing to stay makes me weak. Who told you that? Everyone? Society. Every message I've gotten my entire career about women who settle for family instead of success? Nathan took her hands. You're not settling. You're choosing. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Settling is accepting less than you deserve because you're afraid of wanting more. Choosing is knowing what you want and picking that, even when it's hard. Ava leaned into him, exhausted by the weight of it all. I don't want to resent you, or Emma, or this life. So don't choose it if you're not sure. Take the job. We'll figure out the distance or the move or whatever we need to do. You're really willing to uproot everything for me? I'm willing to try. That's what you need. They stayed up most of the night talking through scenarios, making lists of pros and cons, trying to logic their way through a decision that was fundamentally emotional. By morning, they were no closer to an answer. Nathan called in sick to school, something he never did, and they spent the day really examining what each option meant. Emma stayed home too, sensing that something important was happening. I don't want to move to Seattle, Emma said bluntly when they finally included her in the conversation. I like my school and my friends and Grandma, but I also don't want Ava to leave. So what do you think we should do? Ava asked gently. Emma thought about it with the seriousness only a 9-year-old could bring to major life decisions. I think you should do what makes you happy, but actually happy, not just successful, out of the mouths of children. That night, Ava made her decision. She called her boss and turned down the promotion. I appreciate the offer, she said, and Nathan could hear the tremor in her voice. But I need to stay in Millbrook. My family is here. After she hung up, she looked terrified and relieved in equal measure. I turned it down, she said, like she couldn't quite believe it. I actually turned it down. How do you feel? Nathan asked. Honestly, like I just jumped off a cliff, but also like I made the right choice. You did. For us. For you. This is right. But doubt crept in over the following weeks. Ava threw herself into her current work with renewed intensity, trying to prove she could be successful without the promotion. But Nathan could see the strain, the way she second-guessed herself constantly, wondered if she'd made a mistake. Talk to me, he said one night when he found her staring at her laptop, not actually working. I keep thinking about the offer, she admitted. About what I gave up. Regret? Not exactly. More like grief? For the version of my life I didn't choose. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. I felt the same way after Emma's mother left, grieving the family I thought we'd have. How did you get past it? By building something different, something real instead of imagined. Ava closed her laptop, turning to face him. I don't regret choosing you, either of you, but I need to find a way to feel successful that doesn't require leaving everything I love behind. So find it. Build it. You're brilliant at marketing. Market yourself into a better position here. Over the next month, that's exactly what Ava did. She networked aggressively, pitched herself to other companies, leveraged her current success into serious conversations with firms that could offer growth without relocation. It was exhausting and uncertain, but it was also empowering, taking control instead of waiting for permission. In September, she got an offer from a boutique marketing firm in Millbrook. Smaller team, more autonomy, better work-life balance, and a title bump to senior marketing director. Not quite the Seattle package, but close enough to feel like validation without the sacrifice. She accepted immediately. I did it, she told Nathan and Emma at dinner that night. New job, better title, and I don't have to leave town. Emma cheered. Nathan raised his water glass in a toast, and Ava smiled, genuinely happy, like she'd finally found the balance she'd been chasing. I'm proud of you, Nathan said later, after Emma was asleep. For all of it. The hard choices, the persistence, the refusing to settle. I learned from you, Ava said. You've been making hard choices and building something real for years. I'm just catching up. They stood together in their kitchen, not his kitchen, not her kitchen, but theirs, surrounded by the life they'd accidentally built and deliberately chosen, and Nathan felt something settle into place that had been unsteady for months. This was partnership. Not perfect, not easy, but real. Built on honesty and compromise and choosing each other even when other options existed. Thank you, Ava said quietly, for not letting me run, for making me face the hard stuff instead of hiding in work. Thank you for staying, for choosing us. Every time, she promised, every single time. And standing there, holding each other in the quiet house, Nathan believed her, because she'd proven it. Not with words, but with choices. Not by being perfect, but by being present. They'd weathered the storm. Now they could build in the sunshine. The new job changed everything, but not in the ways Nathan expected. Ava came home energized instead of drained, excited about campaigns instead of stressed about impossible clients. She made Wednesday dinners without the guilty apology of someone perpetually late. She showed up to Emma's school play, her dance recital, the science fair where Emma presented a remarkably elaborate project on water filtration systems. You came, Emma said when she spotted Ava in the auditorium, her face lighting up with uncomplicated joy. Of course I came, Ava replied, pulling Emma into a hug. I wouldn't miss this. Nathan watched them from across the room, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. This was what he'd wanted. Ava present, Emma secure, their family finding its rhythm. But now that they had it, now that the crisis had passed and stability had settled in, he found himself facing a different kind of uncertainty. What came next? They'd been together over a year now, living together for 8 months. They'd survived conflicts and compromises, career decisions and broken promises. They'd built something real. But where was it going? Were they just going to exist like this indefinitely, comfortable but undefined? Or was there supposed to be a next step, some progression he was supposed to initiate but couldn't quite figure out the timing for? You're thinking too loud, Ava said later that night. They were cleaning up after dinner, Emma upstairs doing homework, the house quiet around them. What? You get this look when you're overthinking something. Your forehead does this thing. She reached up, smoothing the space between his eyebrows. I'm not overthinking. Nathan Brooks, you overthink breathing. What's going on? He considered deflecting, but they'd promised honesty, even when it was uncomfortable. Where's this going? He asked, setting down the dish he'd been drying. Us, I mean, this life we're building. Ava turned off the water, giving him her full attention. Where do you want it to go? That's not an answer. Neither is, where is this going? She smiled, but there was nervousness beneath it. Are you asking if I see a future with you? Because the answer is yes. Obviously, yes. But what does that future look like? I don't know. Happy? Together? Why does it need more definition than that? Because Nathan had spent his entire adult life planning, controlling, making sure every variable was accounted for. The ambiguity of not knowing what came next made him itchy in a way he couldn't quite articulate. I guess I'm wondering if we're headed somewhere specific or just existing together indefinitely. Ava studied him for a long moment. Are you asking me to marry you? No, I mean, not right now. Not like this. He stopped, frustrated with himself. I don't know what I'm asking. I think you're asking if I'm in this for the long haul. If I'm committed beyond just living together and being happy day to day. Are you? Nathan, I turned down my dream job to stay here with you. I rearranged my entire life around this family. What more commitment do you need? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe I'm just scared. We've been so focused on surviving the hard stuff that now that things are good, I don't know how to just be good. Ava moved closer, taking his hands. Things being good doesn't mean they're fragile. We're allowed to just be happy without waiting for the other shoe to drop. I want to believe that. So believe it. We're solid, Nathan. You, me, Emma. We're building something that lasts. He kissed her then, trying to quiet the anxious voice in his head that kept cataloging potential disasters. They were fine. They were more than fine. He needed to stop looking for problems where none existed. But the question lingered, taking up residence in the back of his mind. Where were they going? And more importantly, where did he want them to go? The answer came unexpectedly on a Saturday morning in October. Nathan was making pancakes while Emma set the table and Ava scrolled through her phone, and the domesticity of it all suddenly felt so right, so permanent, that the realization hit him like a physical force. He wanted to marry her. Not someday, not eventually. Actually marry her. Make it official, permanent, witnessed and celebrated. Take this accidentally built family and choose it deliberately, publicly, forever. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like the most obvious thing in the world. Earth to Nathan, Emma said, waving a hand in front of his face. You're burning the pancakes. He jerked back to attention, flipping the pancakes before they became completely ruined. But his mind was elsewhere, already planning, already imagining how to do this right. Over the next few weeks, Nathan became a man on a mission. He talked to Emma first because she deserved to be part of this decision. How would you feel if I asked Ava to marry us? He said one afternoon while they were driving home from school. Emma's head whipped around so fast he worried about whiplash. Really? You're going to propose? I'm thinking about it, but I need to know how you feel. Are you kidding? Yes, do it. When? How? Can I help pick the ring? Her enthusiasm was gratifying and slightly overwhelming. So you'd be okay with it? With Ava being your stepmom officially? Emma's expression turned serious. Daddy, Ava's already my stepmom. She comes to my stuff and helps with homework and knows how I like my sandwiches cut. A ring doesn't change that. No, but it makes it official, permanent. Good. I want it to be permanent. She's not going anywhere, right? Not if I can help it. Then yes, definitely yes. And I definitely want to help with the ring. The next weekend, Nathan took Emma to 3 different jewelry stores where she offered strong opinions on every ring they looked at. Too small, she declared at the first store. Too flashy, at the second. At the third store, she pointed to a simple platinum band with a single brilliant cut diamond. That one. It's perfect. The jeweler pulled it out, and Nathan had to agree. It was elegant without being ostentatious, classic without being boring. It was exactly Ava. "How do you know this is the right one?" Nathan asked Emma as the jeweler rang up the purchase. "Because it looks like her. Pretty, but not trying too hard. The kind of thing she'd actually wear every day." His 9-year-old daughter understood jewelry better than he did. Nathan made a mental note of that for future reference. With the ring secured, Nathan moved on to planning the proposal itself. He wanted it to be meaningful, personal, something that honored how they'd met and what they'd built together. His first instinct was to do something elaborate, a restaurant, flowers, maybe hire a photographer to capture the moment. But the more he thought about it, the more that felt wrong. Their relationship wasn't built on grand gestures. It was built on quiet moments, on showing up, on choosing each other in the everyday chaos of life. The idea came to him in the middle of grading essays one Wednesday evening. It was so obvious he almost laughed. The bathroom. Their bathroom. The place where this whole ridiculous, wonderful accident had started. He ran the idea past Emma, who loved it immediately. Together they plotted and planned, Emma proving herself to be surprisingly skilled at covert operations for someone who still lost her shoes on a daily basis. "We need to get her out of the house for a few hours," Emma said, sprawled on Nathan's bed while he paced. "So you can set everything up." "How do we do that without making her suspicious?" "Tell her it's a girl's day. We'll go get our nails done and have lunch. She loves that stuff." "Do you love that stuff?" Emma shrugged. "I'm willing to sacrifice for the cause." The following Saturday, Emma executed the plan perfectly. She asked Ava if they could have a special day together, just the two of them, complete with pleading eyes that Ava had no defense against. "Of course," Ava said, already reaching for her purse. "Where do you want to go?" "Nails first, then that new lunch place downtown, then maybe the bookstore." "Perfect. Nathan, you good here by yourself?" "I'll manage," Nathan said, trying to keep his voice casual despite the ring box burning a hole in his pocket. After they left, Nathan got to work. He cleaned the bathroom until it sparkled, arranged candles around the space, set up a small table with flowers, and the playlist they danced to in the kitchen late one night when Emma was asleep. He changed into the same shirt he'd worn the night they first had dinner at Angelo's, the one Ava always said she loved. Then he waited, nerves building with each passing minute. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "Heading home now. She suspects nothing. Good luck." Nathan positioned himself in the bathroom, suddenly second-guessing everything. Was this too cheesy, too on the nose? What if she thought it was weird instead of romantic? But before he could spiral completely, he heard the front door open and Ava's voice calling out, "Nathan, we're back!" You will not believe what Emma talked me into at the bookstore. She appeared in the bedroom doorway, stopping short when she saw the bathroom lit up behind him, candles flickering in the late afternoon light. "What's going on?" she asked, confused but smiling. "Come here," Nathan said, holding out his hand. Ava took it, letting him lead her into the bathroom. She looked around, taking in the candles, the flowers, the careful staging of everything. "Nathan, what is this?" He took a deep breath, trying to remember the speech he'd practiced. It all evaporated the moment he met her eyes. "A year and a half ago, you used the wrong key and walked into the wrong house and scared the hell out of me in this exact spot," he started, voice unsteady. "You were soaking wet and terrified, and I was holding a baseball bat, like I knew how to use it, and it should have been the worst moment of both our lives." "It kind of was," Ava said. But she was smiling now, tears already forming. But it wasn't, because somehow, impossibly, that disaster led to this. To Wednesday dinners and Emma's science fairs and you folding towels wrong and me learning that control isn't nearly as important as connection. "Nathan, let me finish before I lose my nerve." He reached into his pocket, pulling out the ring box. Ava's hand flew to her mouth. "You walked into the wrong house and turned out to be exactly the right person. You stayed when it was hard, chose us when it cost you, and built a family with me when I'd convinced myself I was better off alone. And I don't want to do life without you anymore. Not as roommates, not as partners, but as husband and wife." He opened the box, the diamond catching the candlelight. "Ava Carter, will you marry me?" Ava was crying now, openly and without pretense. "You set this up in the bathroom, the actual bathroom where we met. Too much?" "It's perfect. You're perfect. This whole ridiculous thing is perfect." She laughed through her tears. "Yes, obviously yes. How could I say anything but yes? Nathan slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, and then she was kissing him, tasting like salt and joy and promise. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in the space where their story began, making it the place where the next chapter started. Emma helped pick the ring, didn't she? Ava asked when they finally broke apart. How did you know? Because it's exactly what I would have chosen. Your daughter knows me too well. Our daughter, Nathan corrected gently. If you're saying yes to me, you're saying yes to both of us. I said yes to both of you a long time ago. This just makes it official. They found Emma waiting in the living room, pretending to read but clearly on high alert. She looked up when they appeared, trying to play it cool. So? She asked, voice studiedly casual. Ava held up her hand, showing off the ring. Emma shrieked and launched herself at them both, nearly knocking them over with the force of her excitement. You said yes! I knew you'd say yes! Can I be in the wedding? Can I help plan it? When is it? Are we going to have a big party? One question at a time, Nathan laughed, pulling both his girls close. Yes, you can be in the wedding. Yes, you can help plan. We'll figure out the rest as we go. This is the best day ever, Emma declared, squeezing them tight. Nathan met Ava's eyes over Emma's head, and the look they shared said everything words couldn't. This was it. This was the family they'd built from accident and intention, from wrong doors and right choices. This was home. The engagement shifted something fundamental, made permanent what had already felt permanent. Nathan found himself using the word fiancé with a grin he couldn't suppress, watching Ava twist her ring absently during meetings like she was still getting used to it being there. They set a date for the following summer, giving them time to plan something simple but meaningful. Emma immediately appointed herself wedding coordinator, keeping detailed lists of every idea she had, most of which involved excessive amounts of flowers and at least one disco ball. Absolutely not, Ava said when Emma suggested a choreographed first dance. But it would be so cool. Your father can barely dance normally. Choreography would end in injury. Hey, Nathan protested. I can dance fine. You can sway rhythmically. That's different. It's gotten me this far. They fell into planning mode, which for Nathan meant spreadsheets and timelines and contingency plans for every possible disaster. Ava indulged this with amused patience, occasionally reminding him that the wedding was supposed to be fun, not a military operation. You have backup caterers for the backup caterer, she pointed out one evening, looking over his latest planning document. What if something happens to all three? Then we order pizza and call it rustic chic. I'm trying to make sure everything's perfect. Ava closed the laptop, taking his hands. It's already perfect. We're getting married, surrounded by people who love us. Everything else is just details. Details matter. Not as much as you think they do. But Nathan couldn't help himself. This was too important, too meaningful to leave to chance. He wanted everything exactly right, wanted the day to reflect how much this meant, how carefully they'd built this family. 3 months before the wedding, Emma came home from school unusually quiet. Nathan noticed immediately but gave her space, waiting for her to bring up whatever was bothering her. At dinner, she finally spoke up. Maya's parents are getting divorced. Nathan and Ava exchanged glances. Maya was Emma's best friend, had been since kindergarten. I'm sorry, sweetheart, Ava said gently. That must be hard for her. She said her dad moved out last week, and her mom cries all the time now. Emma pushed food around her plate. She asked if that's going to happen to you guys. What did you tell her? Nathan asked. I said no, that you're getting married, so you're going to stay together. Emma looked up, and there was vulnerability in her eyes that made Nathan's chest tight. That's true, right? Married people don't leave? The question was loaded with more than curiosity. It carried the weight of Emma's mother, of abandonment, of every fear she'd carried since she was 4 years old. Marriage doesn't guarantee anything, Nathan said carefully. Your mother and I were married, and she still left. But Ava and I are different. We choose each other every day, and marriage is us making that choice official. But what if you stopped choosing each other? Then we'd work on it, Ava said. We'd talk and fight and figure it out instead of just walking away. That's what commitment means. Not that we'll never have problems, but that we'll face them together. Emma seemed to consider this. Maya's scared her dad won't want to see her anymore, like that he left because of her. That's not how it works, Nathan said firmly. When parents separate, it's never the kid's fault, even when it feels like it is. Did you think Mommy left because of you? Emma asked, and the question was so direct it nearly winded him. Sometimes, he admitted. Sometimes I wondered if I'd been a better husband or if we'd had a different life. Maybe she would have stayed. But now? Now I know she left because she wasn't ready to be a parent. That was about her, not about me or you. And I'm grateful because it meant we got to build this life instead. Emma nodded slowly, processing. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to adopt me? She looked at Ava when she said it. Like, officially make me your daughter too? The question clearly caught Ava off guard. She looked at Nathan, uncertain, and he realized they'd never actually discussed this, had just assumed the family structure would remain as it was. Would you want that? Ava asked carefully. Yeah, I mean, you're already kind of my mom. Maya has a stepmom, and she got adopted, and now she has 2 last names, and I thought maybe I could too. Brooks Carter. Or Carter Brooks. I'm not picky about the order. Nathan felt emotion clog his throat. That's a big thing to decide right now. Why? You're getting married. Doesn't that mean Ava's my family officially anyway? Marriage makes Ava my wife, which makes her your stepmother. But adoption is different. That's a legal process that would give Ava actual parental rights. So she could sign permission slips and stuff? And make medical decisions and be listed as your parent on official documents. It's serious. Emma shrugged, like this was the most obvious thing in the world. Then we should do it. Ava's already doing all that stuff anyway. Might as well make it real. Nathan looked at Ava, trying to read her expression. They'd talked about the future in abstract terms, about eventually maybe having kids together someday. But this was concrete, immediate, a 9-year-old asking to be officially claimed. Can we talk about this privately? Ava asked Emma gently. Not because we don't want to, but because it's a big conversation that your dad and I need to have together first. Okay, Emma said easily, but just so you know, I'm going to keep asking. After Emma went to bed, Nathan and Ava sat on the porch with wine, the October night cool around them. I wasn't expecting that, Ava said finally. Neither was I. Do you want me to adopt her? Nathan considered the question carefully. I think the better question is, do you want to adopt her? Because this isn't about what I want. This is about you taking on legal responsibility for a child who isn't biologically yours. That's huge. She already feels like mine, Ava said quietly. I know I didn't give birth to her, didn't know her as a baby, but somewhere along the way she became my daughter in every way that matters. The legal stuff would just confirm what's already true. You're sure? Because once we do this, there's no backing out. You'd be her parent, legally and permanently. Even if something happened to us, even if we somehow didn't work out, you'd still be responsible for her. I know, and I want that, all of it. Ava turned to face him fully. Nathan, I didn't plan on becoming a mother this way, but Emma is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Getting to be her parent officially, that's not a burden, that's a gift. We'd need to start the paperwork soon if we want it finalized before the wedding. Then let's start it. Let's make this family as official as it already feels. They initiated the adoption process the following week, which turned out to be remarkably straightforward, given that Emma's biological mother had signed away her parental rights years ago and showed no interest in reestablishing contact. The lawyer explained it would take about 3 months to finalize, which meant it should be complete just before the wedding. Emma was thrilled. She started introducing Ava as my soon-to-be official mom to anyone who would listen, which led to some confused conversations at school, but mostly just made everyone involved tear up. The adoption hearing was scheduled for a Thursday in March, a simple court proceeding that would make permanent what already felt real. Emma wore her favorite dress, Nathan wore a suit, and Ava looked nervous in a way he'd rarely seen. What if the judge says no? She whispered while they waited outside the courtroom. Why would the judge say no? I don't know. Maybe I'm not qualified. Maybe there's some rule about stepmothers I don't know about. You're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. The hearing itself was brief, almost anticlimactic. The judge asked Emma if she understood what adoption meant, if she wanted Ava to be her legal parent. Emma answered with an enthusiasm that made everyone in the courtroom smile. Yes, Your Honor, I definitely want Ava to be my mom. She's already the best mom, and now she'll be the official best mom. The judge approved the adoption without hesitation. Just like that, Ava Carter became Emma's legal mother, her name added to the birth certificate alongside Nathan's. They celebrated with ice cream because that's what Emma requested, and Nathan watched his daughter and his fiancée, no, his daughter and her mother, laugh together over chocolate chip cookie dough and sprinkles, and felt something settle into place that had been floating free for years. This was family, not accidental anymore. Chosen, official, real. The wedding came together faster than Nathan expected, despite his careful planning. Summer arrived with its customary chaos of end-of-school activities, and then suddenly they were a week out, then 3 days, then the night before. Nathan couldn't sleep. He kept running through checklists in his head, making sure everything was perfect, that nothing had been forgotten. Around 2 a.m., he gave up and went downstairs to find Ava already in the kitchen, also clearly unable to sleep. "Couldn't turn your brain off either?" she asked, pouring him a glass of water. "I keep thinking I've forgotten something crucial." "You've forgotten nothing. You've planned this wedding more thoroughly than most people plan military campaigns. I just want it to be right. It will be. Because at the end of the day, we'll be married. Everything else is just window dressing." Nathan pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "I can't believe we're actually doing this. Having regrets?" "Not even slightly, just marveling. A year and a half ago, you were a terrified stranger in my shower. Tomorrow you'll be my wife." Best shower incident ever. Definitely the best. They stood together in the quiet kitchen, holding each other in the space where they'd had so many conversations, made so many plans, built so much of their life together. Tomorrow would be official and witnessed and celebrated. But this moment, quiet and private and just theirs, felt equally important. "I love you," Ava whispered. "Wrong house? Right person? All of it. I love you too. Every disaster, every perfect moment, everything in between." "See you at the altar, Nathan Brooks." "See you there, future Mrs. Carter Brooks." She smiled. "I still can't believe we're hyphenating." Emma insisted, something about fairness and equality. "Our daughter, the social justice warrior." "Our daughter," Nathan repeated, and the phrase still gave him joy. "Yeah, she really is." They went to bed separately, tradition demanding they spend the night apart despite living in the same house. Nathan lay in the guest room, listening to the house settle around him, and felt nothing but certainty. Tomorrow, he'd marry the woman who'd accidentally broken into his life and deliberately stayed. Tomorrow, their family would become official in every possible way. Tomorrow, the wrong door would finally lead all the way home. He fell asleep smiling, dreaming of strawberry shampoo and second chances and all the ways love could arrive when you least expected it and most needed it. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. Morning arrived with golden light streaming through the guest room window, and Nathan woke with a clarity that felt almost supernatural. Today was the day. After all the planning, all the anticipation, all the careful construction of a life that had started with the most chaotic possible beginning, today they would make it official. He found Emma already awake, sitting at the kitchen table in her pajamas, eating cereal with an intensity that suggested nerves rather than hunger. "Big day," Nathan said, pouring himself coffee. "Huge day," Emma agreed. "I have a speech prepared." "A speech?" "For the reception. I've been working on it for weeks. Grandma helped me edit it." Nathan made another mental note about his mother's involvement in family affairs, though this time he was more amused than annoyed. "What's it about?" "You'll have to wait and see, but it's good. I made Grandma cry twice during practice." "That's either very sweet or very concerning." "Both, probably." They spent the morning in comfortable chaos. Nathan's mother arrived at 9 with her makeup artist friend in tow, immediately commandeering the bathroom to begin transforming Ava into a bride. Nathan could hear laughter drifting down from upstairs, the occasional shriek of excitement, the sounds of women preparing for something significant. Marcus showed up at 10 with Nathan's suit, freshly pressed, and immediately appointed himself keeper of the rings and emotional support. "You nervous?" Marcus asked, helping Nathan with his tie. "Surprisingly, no. I thought I would be, but I just feel ready." "That's good. That's how you should feel." Marcus stepped back, examining his work. You know, when you first told me about meeting Ava, I thought you were insane. A woman breaks into your house and you end up dating her? That's either a romantic comedy or a crime drama. Turned out to be the first one. Luckily for everyone involved. She's good for you, man. You smile more. You're less rigidly controlled about everything. I'm still pretty rigidly controlled. Sure, but now there's flexibility around the edges. That's growth. By noon, the house was pure controlled chaos. The wedding was at 3 in the small garden behind the community center, intimate and simple, exactly what they'd wanted. 50 guests, mostly family and close friends, nothing extravagant or showy, just people who mattered, witnessing something that mattered. Nathan wasn't allowed to see Ava until the ceremony, tradition dictating they maintain separation despite the absurdity of it, given they'd been living together for over a year. He caught glimpses, though. Her laugh from upstairs, the rustle of fabric, his mother's voice offering encouragement and probably unsolicited advice. At 2:30, they loaded into separate cars. Emma rode with Ava and Nathan's mother, declaring her loyalty to Team Bride for the day. Nathan drove with Marcus, trying to focus on the road instead of the anticipation building in his chest. The garden was perfect. White chairs arranged in neat rows, an arbor wrapped in flowers at the front, string lights ready to illuminate everything as evening fell. Their friend Jennifer, who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this, stood at the front reviewing her notes. Everything was exactly as Nathan had planned it. Guests began arriving, filling the chairs with familiar faces and warm greetings. Nathan stood at the front, hands clasped, trying to project calm while his heart raced. Marcus stood beside him, rings secured safely in his pocket, offering steady support. "You've got this," Marcus murmured. "Just breathe." Music started, soft and simple, and the guests quieted. Emma appeared first, walking down the aisle with careful dignity, wearing a pale blue dress and carrying a bouquet with the seriousness of someone entrusted with an important mission. She took her place at the front, flashing Nathan a quick thumbs up that made several guests chuckle. Then Ava appeared, and Nathan forgot how to breathe entirely. She was stunning, not because of the dress, though it was beautiful, simple, elegant, perfectly her, but because of the way she looked at him, like he was the only person in the garden, in the world, like this moment was everything she'd been waiting for. She walked alone, having declined anyone giving her away, declaring she was choosing this herself with no symbolic handoff required. When she reached the front, she took Nathan's hands, and he could feel her trembling slightly. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he whispered back. Jennifer began the ceremony with warmth and humor, talking about love and choice and the particular magic of finding the right person in the most unexpected way. She didn't mention the shower incident directly, but there were knowing looks among the guests who'd heard the story. "Nathan and Ava have prepared their own vows," Jennifer said, nodding to Nathan. He'd written and rewritten his vows a dozen times, trying to capture everything he felt in a few coherent sentences. Now, looking at Ava, he abandoned the carefully prepared speech entirely. "A year and a half ago, you walked into my house using the wrong key," he started, and Ava laughed through tears that were already forming. "You were terrified and soaking wet and absolutely convinced you'd ruined everything, and I was standing there with a baseball bat wondering what disaster had just entered my very controlled, very careful life." "Accurate," Ava murmured. "I spent 6 years building walls, creating structure, making sure nothing unexpected could hurt me or Emma again, and then you showed up and destroyed all of it. Not with force, but with persistence and kindness, and a willingness to stay even when things got hard." His voice caught, emotion swelling. "You chose us when you could have chosen your career. You stayed when you could have run. You became Emma's mother, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. And you loved me even when I was difficult and controlling and overthinking everything." "Still do," Ava said softly. "I don't have perfect words for what you mean to me. I just know that my life was smaller before you, and now it's everything. You are everything. And I promise to choose you every day, through good jobs and bad clients, through perfect moments and terrible ones, through every disaster and every joy. I promise to fold your towels wrong and make you coffee and show up for Wednesday dinners. I promise to be your partner, your family, your home." He had to stop, throat too tight to continue. Ava squeezed his hands, her own tears flowing freely now. "Your turn," Jennifer said gently. Ava took a shaky breath. I had a whole speech planned. It was very articulate and moving, but standing here, I can't remember any of it. Just speak from your heart, Nathan encouraged. My heart says that I've spent my whole adult life chasing the wrong things. Success, validation, proving I was worthy of taking up space. And then I walked into the wrong house and found the right life. She laughed through her tears. You could have called the police. You should have called the police. Instead, you handed me a towel and a dry shirt and showed me more kindness in my most mortifying moment than most people show in a lifetime. And then you kept showing up, kept being patient, kept making space for me even when I didn't know how to make space for myself. Emma? Ava turned slightly to include her daughter. You taught me that being a mother isn't about biology or timing. It's about showing up and paying attention and loving someone enough to let them be exactly who they are. You made me a better person just by letting me be part of your life. Back to Nathan. And you taught me that control isn't safety, that structure can be flexible, that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. You gave me a family when I didn't even know I was looking for one. You made me believe I could have both career and connection, ambition and belonging. Her voice strengthened. So I promised to keep choosing you. Through late nights and demanding clients, through Emma's teenage years that I'm told will be delightful, through every challenge and celebration. I promise to be present, to be honest, to fold my towels however I want in our bathroom, because you gave me that compromise, and I love you for it. Everyone laughed, even through tears. I promise to be your partner, your wife, Emma's mother. I promise to make this family my priority, not my fallback. And I promise to never, ever use the wrong key again. Please don't, Nathan said, and the whole garden erupted in laughter. Jennifer smiled. By the power vested in me by the internet and the state of California, I now pronounce you married. Nathan, kiss your bride. He did, deeply and thoroughly, while their friends and family cheered and Emma shouted, finally, loud enough to be heard 3 streets over. They broke apart, grinning, officially married, officially a family in every possible way. The reception flowed seamlessly from ceremony, guests moving to tables arranged around the garden as the sun began its descent toward the horizon. Dinner was simple but perfect, conversation loud and joyful, the energy of people genuinely happy to celebrate something real. Emma clinked her glass insistently until everyone quieted, then stood with a piece of paper clutched in her hands. I have a speech, she announced, and you all have to listen because I'm the daughter, and that's the rule. There's no such rule, Nathan called out. There is now. I just made it. Emma cleared her throat with dramatic flair. When I was 4, my mom left. Not Ava, my birth mom, the one who decided being a parent was too hard and just stopped showing up. The mood shifted, guests uncertain where this was going. Nathan started to stand, ready to intervene if Emma needed him, but Ava put a hand on his arm, keeping him seated. For a long time, I thought it was my fault, Emma continued, voice steady. Like maybe I was too loud or too messy or too much work. And I watched my dad try really hard to be both parents, to make sure I never felt like I was missing anything. She looked directly at Nathan. You did a really good job, Dad. You made me feel loved and safe, and like our family was complete even though it was just the 2 of us. Nathan's vision blurred. But then Ava showed up. And at first, I was nervous because people who show up sometimes leave. But she kept staying. She came to my school stuff and helped with homework and learned how to cut my sandwiches the right way. She became my mom not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Emma turned to Ava now. You didn't replace my birth mom. You became something different, something better. You chose to love me even though you didn't have to. And today you officially became my family in every single way. Her voice wavered slightly. So this isn't just a wedding. This is us becoming the family we were always supposed to be, the one that started with a mistake and became perfect. And I'm really glad you used the wrong key, Ava, because the right door led you exactly where you belonged. She raised her glass of sparkling cider. To my parents, the ones who chose each other and chose me. I love you both so much. There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Ava was openly crying. Nathan was barely holding it together, and even Marcus had to wipe at his face with his napkin. Emma sat down with a satisfied smile, clearly pleased with the emotional devastation she'd wrought. That was brutal, Nathan said, pulling her into a fierce hug. And perfect. Told you it was good. The rest of the evening unfolded with the easy joy of people genuinely celebrating. There was dancing, though Nathan's skills were indeed limited to rhythmic swaying. There were toasts, some funny, some touching, all genuine. Nathan's mother gave a speech about how she'd worried about him after the divorce, how she'd prayed he'd find happiness again, and how Ava had exceeded every hope she'd had. As the sun set and the string lights illuminated the garden, Nathan found himself on the small dance floor with Ava, swaying to music neither of them was really listening to. "We did it," Ava said, head resting on his shoulder. "We're actually married. How does it feel different than yesterday?" It doesn't, but also completely does. Like something clicked into place that was already mostly there. That's exactly it. Nathan pulled back slightly to look at her. "Mrs. Carter Brooks." "Mr. Carter Brooks. We're both hyphenating, remember? Emma's rule. Best rule ever." They danced quietly for a moment, letting the reality of it settle. Married, parents, family. All the things Nathan had thought he'd lost forever, rebuilt in a way more solid than before. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For using the wrong key, for staying, for choosing us every day, even when it was hard. Thank you for not calling the police, for handing me a towel instead of throwing me out, for making space in your very organized life for my chaos." "Your chaos is my favorite thing." "Liar. Your favorite thing is color-coded calendars." "Second favorite thing." Ava laughed, the sound warm and full and perfectly her. "I love you, Nathan Brooks Carter. Wrong house, right person, best decision I never planned to make. I love you too. Every disaster, every perfect moment, all of it." They stayed on the dance floor until Emma appeared, demanding her turn to dance with both of them. The three of them swayed together, a family unit complete and chosen and absolutely certain. The party wound down around 10, guests departing with hugs and well wishes and promises to get together soon. Nathan's mother was the last to leave, pulling him aside for a private moment. "I'm proud of you," she said, gripping his hands tight. "For opening your heart again. For letting someone in. For building this beautiful family. Thanks, Mom, for everything. For helping with Emma all these years. For supporting us. For not questioning my sanity when I told you I was dating someone I met in my bathroom." "Oh, I questioned your sanity. I just did it quietly." She smiled. "But she's perfect for you, and Emma adores her. That's all that matters." After she left, Nathan, Ava, and Emma returned to the house together, still in their wedding clothes, carrying leftover cake and the pleasant exhaustion of a day well lived. "Best wedding ever," Emma declared, collapsing on the couch still in her blue dress. "You say that like you've been to a lot of weddings," Ava teased. "I've been to 3. This was definitely the best. The other ones didn't have speeches about shower break-ins." "That is a unique feature," Nathan agreed. They sat together in the living room, too tired to change, too wired to sleep, just existing in the aftermath of making everything official. "Can I ask you guys something?" Emma said, suddenly serious. "Always," Ava responded. "Are we going to have more kids? Like babies?" Nathan and Ava exchanged glances. They'd talked about this in abstract terms, but never concretely, never with a timeline or firm decision. "Would you want siblings?" Nathan asked carefully. Emma thought about it. "Maybe. I like being the only kid because I get all the attention, but it might be nice to have someone to play with who lives here all the time." "That's a very diplomatic answer," Ava said. "I'm practicing for politics. Mrs. Chen says I'd be good at it." "Heaven help us all," Nathan muttered. "But seriously," Emma pressed, "are you going to have a baby?" Ava looked at Nathan, letting him take the lead. He thought about their life, about how full it already felt, about whether they had room for more chaos and joy. "I think we might," he said slowly. "Not right away. We just got married, and we want to enjoy being newlyweds for a while. But someday, yeah, if it's what we all want." "I vote yes," Emma said immediately, "but I get to help name the baby. No boring names like John or Sarah." "Noted," Ava laughed. "Though I can't promise we'll go with your suggestions. You wanted to name our cat Chairman Meow." "That's a great name. You guys have no vision." They talked late into the night, planning futures and dreaming possibilities. the wedding cake slowly disappearing as they picked at it between conversations. Eventually, Emma fell asleep on the couch, and Nathan carried her up to bed, still in her dress because waking her seemed cruel. "Leave it," Ava whispered when he started to unlace Emma's shoes. "She'll be uncomfortable, but she'll live. Let her sleep." They retreated to their own bedroom, finally alone, finally able to shed the formal clothes and collapse into bed. "We're married," Ava said, staring at the ceiling. "We are indeed." "That's so weird." "Good weird, but weird. Everything about us is weird. This is just consistent branding." She rolled onto her side, facing him. "Do you really want more kids?" "I don't know. Do you?" "I asked you first." "Very mature." "I'm tired. Maturity is for the morning." Nathan thought about it seriously. "I think I do. I loved raising Emma, even through the hard parts, and doing it with you from the beginning, getting to experience all of it together. Yeah, I think I'd like that. Even the sleepless nights and the diapers and the complete loss of any personal freedom, especially those parts. That's when the real bonding happens." "You're insane. You married me anyway." "Best decision I never planned to make," she repeated, echoing her earlier words. They fell asleep tangled together, rings new and strange on their fingers, officially bound in every way that mattered. Life settled into a new rhythm after the wedding, one that felt both familiar and transformed. Wednesday dinners continued, but now they carried the weight of tradition rather than negotiation. Emma started 4th grade with the confidence of a child who knew she was thoroughly loved by 2 parents instead of 1. Ava's career flourished at the boutique firm, her talent finally matched with an environment that valued both work and life. Nathan watched his family grow and change, marveling at how something that started as pure chaos had become the most stable thing in his world. A year after the wedding, Ava came home with news that changed everything again. "I'm pregnant," she said, standing in the kitchen doorway looking stunned and delighted and terrified in equal measure. Nathan dropped the pot he was holding, sauce splattering across the stove. "You're what?" "Pregnant. Like actually pregnant. I took 3 tests to be sure." Emma, who'd been setting the table, shrieked and launched herself at Ava. "We're having a baby. I'm going to be a big sister." The next several months were a whirlwind of preparation. They converted the guest room into a nursery, Emma insisting on helping with every decision from wall color to crib selection. Ava's pregnancy was relatively smooth, though she complained constantly about her inability to see her own feet and Nathan's annoying insistence on health food. "I want ice cream for dinner," she said one evening in her 7th month. "You need protein and vegetables," Nathan countered. "The baby wants ice cream. The baby doesn't get a vote yet. This is tyranny. Emma, back me up." Emma, ever diplomatic, suggested they have vegetables with dinner and ice cream after. It was a compromise that satisfied no one and everyone simultaneously. In March, exactly 2 years after Ava had accidentally walked into Nathan's life, she went into labor. It was 3 in the morning, and Nathan's carefully prepared hospital bag was nowhere to be found in the chaos of actually needing it. "It's fine," Ava said through contractions. "We'll figure it out. We need the bag. It has everything. Nathan, breathe. We have time." They didn't, really. Their son arrived 6 hours later, screaming and perfect, with Ava's eyes and Nathan's stubborn chin. They named him James, after Nathan's father, with the middle name Carter to honor both their names. Emma held her baby brother with the careful intensity of someone who took her responsibilities very seriously. "He's so tiny," she whispered. "Was I this tiny?" "Tinier," Nathan said, taking approximately his 1,000th photo of the moment. "How did you not break me?" "Very carefully, same way you won't break him." Ava watched them from the hospital bed, exhausted and radiant, and Nathan felt his heart expand in ways he hadn't known were possible. This family, this accidentally built, deliberately chosen family, was everything. They brought James home to a house that had transformed completely from the rigid, controlled space Nathan had maintained for years. Now it was full of toys and laughter and the beautiful chaos of actually living instead of just existing. Time moved differently with a newborn. Days blurred into nights, sleep became a distant memory, and somehow they survived on coffee and teamwork, and Emma's surprising competence at bottle feeding. "You're really good at this," Ava told Emma one evening, watching her burp James with practiced ease. "I've been practicing with my baby doll," Emma explained. "I wanted to be ready. You're going to be an amazing big sister." "I already am an amazing big sister. James just doesn't know how to appreciate it yet." As James grew from newborn to infant to toddler, the family found its rhythm. Nathan cut back his teaching hours slightly to be more present. Ava negotiated flexible work arrangements that let her be home more. Emma thrived in her role as big sister, teaching James everything from how to stack blocks to why vegetables were important, despite what ice cream might suggest. They had hard days, of course. Sleepless nights and tantrums and moments where Nathan and Ava looked at each other wondering what they'd gotten themselves into. But they had more good days. Watching James take his first steps, hearing his first words, seeing Emma read him bedtime stories with the patience of someone who genuinely loved her role. On their second wedding anniversary, they returned to the bathroom where it all began. Emma was watching James for the evening, giving them rare alone time. "Remember when you threatened me with a baseball bat in this exact spot?" Ava said, leaning against the doorframe. "One of my finer moments," Nathan agreed. "I was terrified." "So was I. Just armed terrified." She moved closer, taking his hands. "If someone had told me that night that I'd end up married to you with 2 kids and a life I couldn't have imagined, I would have thought they were insane. If someone had told me I'd marry the woman I found shampooing in my shower, I would have called a therapist. And yet here we are. Here we are." They stood together in the space where everything had started, where chaos had led to connection, where the wrong door had opened onto exactly the right life. "Thank you," Nathan said, echoing his wedding vows, "for using the wrong key. Thank you for not calling the police. Thank you for staying. Thank you for giving me a reason to." They kissed in the bathroom doorway, the sounds of their children drifting up from downstairs. Emma's voice reading a story while James babbled along in his own language. It was perfect in its imperfection, chaotic and controlled in equal measure. Everything Nathan had never known he needed. Years passed in the way they do when life is full. Emma grew into a confident teenager with her father's planning skills and her mother's creative spirit. James became an energetic 5-year-old with opinions on everything. Nathan and Ava navigated careers and parenting and the beautiful ordinary challenge of building a life together. They had their fights, their moments of frustration and doubt. Ava's work still demanded too much sometimes. Nathan still tried to control things that couldn't be controlled. They argued about money and parenting strategies and whose turn it was to handle the school pickup, but they also had their rituals. Wednesday dinners, sacred and unbreakable. Saturday morning pancakes with increasingly elaborate requests from James. Movie nights where Emma rolled her eyes at their choice of films, but watched anyway. Annual trips back to the courthouse where Ava had officially adopted Emma, a pilgrimage to honor the day their family became legal as well as real. On what would have been their 5th anniversary, Nathan planned a surprise. He'd been working on it for months, coordinating with Emma and his mother, making sure every detail was perfect. He led Ava back to 247 Maple Street, to the blue flower pot by the front door where the wrong key had been hidden all those years ago. "What are we doing here?" Ava asked, confused. Nathan pulled out a key, shiny and new. "I bought the house from Sarah. She's moving to Arizona and wanted to sell, and I thought, you bought the house where I accidentally broke in? I bought the place where our story started, where you walked through the wrong door and changed everything." Ava stared at the key, then at the house, then back at Nathan. "What are we going to do with it?" "Whatever we want. Rent it out, use it as an office, turn it into Emma's first apartment when she goes to college." "I don't know. I just wanted us to own this piece of our history." She kissed him, deep and certain, while Emma and James cheered from where they'd been hiding in the car. "You're completely ridiculous," Ava said against his lips. "You married me anyway." "Best decision I never planned to make." They stood together on the porch of 247 Maple Street, the house where wrong had turned into right, where chaos had become clarity, where a terrified woman and a confused man had found exactly what they'd needed without knowing they were looking for it. Emma and James joined them, and together the family that had started with a misplaced key stood in front of the house that had made it all possible. "Can we go inside?" James asked, tugging at Nathan's hand. "Absolutely," Nathan said. unlocking the door. They walked through together, four people who'd become a family through accident and intention, through wrong turns and right choices, through staying when leaving would have been easier. The house was empty, waiting to be filled with whatever they decided. But Nathan knew whatever they did with it, this place would always be significant. This was where Ava had used the wrong key and unlocked the right life. This was where Nathan had lowered his baseball bat and raised his hopes. This was where everything had started. In the upstairs bathroom, the scene of the original chaos, they stood together looking at the shower that had witnessed it all. "I can't believe this is ours now," Ava said, shaking her head. "Everything comes full circle," Nathan replied. Emma, ever practical, asked, "Are we going to tell this story at every family gathering forever?" "Absolutely," Nathan and Ava said in unison. "Thought so," Emma sighed, but she was smiling. James, too young to understand but sensing the moment's significance, declared, "This is the best house ever." And standing there, in the bathroom where it all began, surrounded by the family he'd built from catastrophe and choice, Nathan Brooks Carter couldn't have agreed more. The wrong door had led to everything right. The accidental break-in had broken open his carefully controlled world and let in love and chaos and joy. The terrified stranger in his shower had become his wife, his partner, his home. Sometimes the best things in life come from the worst moments. Sometimes getting lost is how you find your way. Sometimes the person you least expect becomes exactly who you need. And sometimes when you open a door expecting disaster, you find forever instead. Nathan kissed his wife in the bathroom where they'd met, heard his children laughing in the hallway, and knew with absolute certainty that every wrong turn had led him exactly where he belonged. Home wasn't a place. It was the people you chose and who chose you back. It was Wednesday dinners and adoption papers and wedding vows. It was showing up and staying and building something real from something impossible. It was using the wrong key and finding the right door had been waiting all along. And as the late afternoon sun streamed through the bathroom window, illuminating the space where their story had started and would always be remembered, Nathan Brooks Carter held his family close and thought about baseball bats and shower curtains and all the beautiful chaos that comes from opening your life to possibility. The wrong house had become the right home, and that made all the difference.